Welcome to Zen.
A podcast where we talk all things yoga and wellness.
Yoga,
Yes.
wellness, spirituality. I mean, we'll hit on so many different topics, relationships, just how all of these lifestyle changes or how we live our lives affects everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just having more awareness in our day-to-day lives, how it affects us showing up in, like you said, our relationships and our careers, with the many changes that we go through.
Family,
friends, all the things. And
everything.
how we show up for ourselves and how we show up for each other. And this is just a safe space for you to come and join and hear some beautiful stories that can hopefully resonate and, make a positive impact in humanity. That's the goal. That's the mission, right?
Yeah. And Briauna, Ashley. Ashley and I just have so many fun, interesting conversations, and we thought, why not just put a podcast together where we can just talk and share our thoughts
So
and
I
ideas.
think that's a good way to start our introduction.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned, we're the Zen Podcast.
The Zen Podcast, and we can kind of hit on, well, first off, I should ask who you are. Who are you?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah, that's actually a big question.
It's so interesting that you asked that, because I remember being at when I was transitioning in life, and I had a mentor at the time, and she asked me, she said, one of the biggest questions you'll ever ask yourself is, who am I? And it wasn't connected to a job, where you come from, your family. It was who are you beyond all those things? And so for me, first and foremost, I always like to say I am a vessel for the divine to work through me. I'm just here to share joy and to share happiness, whether that's outside of my job, and I do that through my jobs. Multiple jobs. Number one, I do work in the real estate world, so I'm a realtor here in California.
Nice.
And I'm also a wellness practitioner, and as a wellness practitioner, I share the tools of yoga, the tools of sound healing, meditation, and breath work, holding space for women's retreats. So many things. It's just a journey. All the tools that I learn, I just provide for others. So that's a little bit about what I do, and how maybe I got into yoga, or
how did you even yoga? I mean, how did you even get into the yoga room?
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So a little bit about myself. So how did I get into the yoga room? I was exhausted from work, from the 9 to 5, from constantly going. At the time when I first started practicing, particularly hot yoga, I think I was in my early 30s, and I was flying all around the country as a flight attendant at the time, and one of my good girlfriends, we both got based in Arizona, and she was just like, why don't you come with me to a hot yoga studio one day? And I was like, okay, you know what, let me just see what this is about. And I went, and I looked around all these people got to be crazy. It's the middle of the day. It's I think it was
hot yoga.
Yes. It was
yes.
a class full of people.
Yeah.
They were doing these extremely hard postures
Yep.
and sweating. It was 110 to 115
Girl,
degrees in
it's
the
more than
room.
that. Yep.
And I was like, what in the world? These people are crazy, but I like it. And it
Yes.
feels good. It was so euphoric after.
Yeah.
And I felt like everything had just been lifted off of me. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to come back every day until I figure this out. And figuring it out was more so not just getting into the postures, but figuring myself out. It was the self-discovery journey really, really began that I was aware of. So that's been my intro into hot yoga. And I know yours is a lot different. You're like an OG of yoga.
Well, girl, yeah.
Hot yoga.
Hot yoga. We both, we love hot yoga. I kind of got my start into yoga. My mom, so Bikram yoga was the hottest thing in the early 2000s, and my mom dropped me off at La Cristina hot yoga studio I was like 12 years old, 13 years old.
Wow.
And she started taking me with her. And I was like, what are we doing? But I loved it. I was like, okay, this is cool. The room is hot. I would bring my towel and set up. And I was like, cool. It was a very intimate studio. Like the studio was very small and like, you know, and then so I was doing it for like a year or two, and then, you know, turned into a teenager, that whole journey. Teenager, college, ASU, and then what was it? I was driving by, I think I was like 23, 24. I was driving and I saw like a new hot yoga studio opening. And while I was at ASU, I would drop into like the free yoga donation-based classes they would have and stuff. But I was like, oh yeah, I miss doing the hot yoga. I used to do that all the time. And so I walked in with the guy I was dating at the time, and they were just giving us the rundown. They were just opening Radiate Hot Yoga in Phoenix. That's where we met. Yeah, where we met. And they had just opened, and I was like, oh, cool. She's like, yeah, you should come back. I don't know who I spoke with. I don't know if I spoke with Amy or who.
Probably.
But, yeah, and then something happened, girl. Something triggered me to go. I think he and I weren't working out. The relationship was going south. So I was like, well, I'm just going to start. Actually, you know what? I think I started going to yoga and, like, prioritizing yoga, and I don't know. He just wasn't really feeling that. I don't know what was going on, but I just really started getting into it. I started going, he and I broke up, and then I just started going 5 to 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. Like, it was my saving grace at that point in my life. I had so many different things going on. And it was like the first time I had lived alone, and I was in this other state with no family, and I just, like, yoga literally saved my life.
I feel you.
Completely.
Touche.
Something about, I don't know, and I think a certain type of person is attracted to the hot yoga.
The A-type personalities who are, like, super, like, addictive personalities.
It's very addicting, the hot yoga. And, okay, for me personally, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't know how to put it into words, but it kind of like breaks you a little bit. Like the heat and the humidity, like the room is 115 degrees, 60% humidity. Like you are dripping sweat. And I don't know what it is. It's so humbling. It like just strips you of all of these outside coverings, I feel, to like your true self. It unmasks you basically while you're on your mat, and you get into these postures, and it humbles the fuck out of you because
for sure
you're like, wait, I can't even like lift up my knee to like my hip, or I can't even flex my toes, or she told me to lift up my right leg and I lifted up my left leg. Like you're like, wait, what
is going on?
It humbles you,
for sure.
And you have like these breakthroughs at the end where, I mean, obviously, like the first few times it was like nothing happened. And then like it'll just be that one time where you're laying on your mat and you just start crying, releasing. And you're like, I am sobbing my eyes out right now in Shavasana, in meditation. I'm crying. Or like, for me personally, I started having like vision. Like when I was going like twice a day, I started having like visions, like seeing things in my meditation.
You're totally opened up. Like spiritually, you start to open up to a whole nother level of consciousness. Once you start to like, it's detoxing, right? Like, so let's talk about that. Like what it does for the body. Like it really, you're detoxing what you eat.
Yes.
You know, like what you consume, the drinking, like everything. You're detoxing like your everything in your body. And
it's coming out.
And what that does is brings you clarity, you know what I mean? And when you're in these postures, you cannot think about anything but like breathing. Like the breath is so important when it comes to like hot yoga, because like that's the only thing that's going to get you through, you know? Like, and I love breathing. It's such like meditation and movement, because like what I find is that like I stop thinking about what's going on in my head, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, you know, job or work or whatever.
Everything
like,
stripped.
It brings you into the present moment, which I really love.
What just came up for me when you said that was like when you stop thinking about everything. I think that's what was happening. Yeah. Like whatever's happening in your life, first off, you walk in, the heat hits you in the face, like, and then it's like you have nothing else to focus on but what the instructor is like guiding you to do, and you're like, okay, wait, inhale, lift up my right knee. Okay, now I'm thinking about the heat. It's hot, it's sweating, I'm trying to figure out my alignment cues, I'm trying to feel this pose in my body. This is uncomfortable, but it brings you into the present moment, and actually opens your mind to be able to come to clarity on situations. Like sometimes in my yoga, I'll just get the answer I've been searching for. And I think because you slow down. But yes, it is.
What I also love too is like when we used to practice at the studio, or sometimes several different studios, like the instructor will literally say something that I'm actually going through. Like, you know, let that go, leave that outside, like that. Again, whatever you're going through at work, you know, whatever you're worried about that's going on, that's going to happen after this class or before this class, or like, you know, let that shit go. Like, I'm just like, they know exactly what I'm going through. She gets me, you know. Or they'll, at the end, I know sometimes some people will say like this philosophical, you know, just words of wisdom to share with the class, and it'll just hit home for me where I'm like, man, like I needed that. I needed to hear that. Or like beyond just getting this out, like just that extra gem at the end was like, you know, a good
when they
takeaway.
Leave you with. And and that's what I really loved about the studio we met at, which was, we should talk also about like where we met and like all these things. Oh my gosh.
Let's get into
it. But yeah, let's get into it. We met at Radiate Hot Yoga in Arizona, and both kind of similar points in our lives, but different, but similar.
Oh gosh, you really want to get into it?
Well, yeah, because
what were we going through at that time?
We were going through so much. I mean, we were broke as hell. We had no money. We had no money.
Yes.
So I can talk about my experience, and then you can talk about yours. Yeah. But for me, I was going to this hot yoga studio. The guy I was dating for like 3 years. We broke up. So I was going faithfully, like 5 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And I was thinking to myself when I would do the yoga, like, oh, I could totally see myself teaching a class. Because, you know, sometimes you take those teachers and you're like, I could do better.
Yeah.
And then other times you take those teachers and you're like, wow, they have changed my life forever. And I could totally see myself wanting to change someone else's life the way this has changed my life. And so, because like I said, I was having visions. I was able to see, I had this one vision of someone who died and like having a conversation in my meditation. I don't know. It was just so weird. The person spoke to me, came to me, whatever. Yeah. It just really broke me down to like this raw version of myself. And I began my healing journey. Yeah. So, they made an announcement at Radiate that there was going to be this yoga teacher training. And I was like, oh, I could become a teacher this way. And so I looked up the price. At the time, I had no car. My car got repoed. So, we got to circle back to that.
Gosh.
So, yeah.
Wow, we were both going through the same thing.
We were. That's what I was saying. It's just the same thing, that's like but like different. Wait, your car was repoed?
Yeah.
Oh, that was just... Yeah, I was, my car got repoed. Don't ask me how those two things come together. It was just, I was 25, 24, and I didn't know. I was renting a 4-bedroom house. I was living by myself.
Wow.
But I didn't understand like money management. Like I just wasn't handling my stuff.
Young.
I was young. And then, and I was transitioning out of that. So then I wasn't making as much money, but I heard about the yoga teacher program and I was like, okay, how can I make this happen? I don't have a car, but this is my passion. I love what I'm doing.
They called
and
you.
They had the pay as you go plan.
Yeah.
So, this was the semester before you joined.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, pay as you go. I can pay $50 to take a class and like start building up to my 200 hour.
Yeah.
So I was literally paying as I go. Like I was going there $50 a class, and like so I missed a bunch of them, but every time I had the 50 I would go show up.
But it was like almost $3,000 just
it was expensive
for the teacher training program.
Yeah. And I had a job. I got a job at Lululemon, so I was just like hustling however I could get money. And so and I remember one day at the yoga school when we would have our break in the afternoon, and this one girl, she owns a juicery in Scottsdale. And she asked, so she had money and she was cool, but she was just doing it because people go to yoga school for all different reasons. She was going just to get more insight on yoga and what is it and all these things. And she asked me one day, she was like, why don't I see you coming into yoga every single, like, why aren't you here more? Like, I love having you in yoga school, but you only come once a week or once every other week. And I was like, girl, I'm paying as I go. I don't got money like that. I'm taking Ubers to get here, buses to get here, walking here. Like,
you made a commitment. Like,
I made a commitment. I made a decision.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We always talk about that. So making decisions. And when you want to do something, you're going to do something. Like,
absolutely.
That was one thing I learned from that experience. Like, if you want something done, you're going to figure it out.
Absolutely. No matter what your circumstances are. You can be at the bottom of the bottom. But when you want something, you make a decision, and like, it's like the universe just opens up everything to give you what it is that you're asking for.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what happened for both of us, you know.
For both of us. So yeah, I told her, I said, I don't got it like that right now. Girl, when I tell you, mind you, she had money. Now, this is and I could be completely wrong. Maybe this isn't what happened. But I literally go into yoga school like maybe a day or two later. And they announce a scholarship for yoga school, which I thought was from an anonymous donor.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember, I told you. And I was like, and that must have been when you were starting to go. So I was just like, what? What are the odds that I had just told her I was having financial hardship and an anonymous donor donates for people who are interested in the yoga teacher training?
And that's never happened.
And it hasn't happened since.
Exactly.
And I know that. I'll keep that too. But so what are the odds of that?
I'm again, when you make a decision, this is
the universe.
If you take anything from this, it's like when you make a decision that you want to do something, no matter what your circumstances are, the universe will provide. You say it, you take action. Like, that's the biggest thing too.
You take action.
Taking action on something that you really are interested in, and it's like, it's not about money. Everything is energy, right? It's like energy. I'm going to focus on, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. These are the experiences that I want to have. No matter what my financial circumstances are, like, it's going to happen. It's like having faith, you know, taking action, and then letting the universe do what it does.
Yeah. And so they announced a scholarship, and I believe we had to write an essay at a certain amount of words. And I stayed up at night writing the essay, submitted the essay, and then got the notice that I got the scholarship. And I think it was Amy called me, and she told me I would be coming back the following semester to finish out the 200-hour, and that's where I met you.
I love Amy. How did I get there? So I was practicing every chance I got, and when I came back to Arizona from flying. Like,
well, what were you doing at that point in your life?
Oh my gosh. So I had, oh God.
we uncovered
my business. Y'all know my business.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had moved to Arizona. Okay, so I left, where do I start? I was working corporate investment banking in California, and my 9 to 5, I've been with the same company for almost 10 years, and I just got burnt out. I was I was the only Black woman in that office space. And so it was you know, how do I say this? It was like a boys club, you know, all the guys in finance who are super successful. And I kept asking for opportunities. And I realized that I needed to start creating them, because they weren't going to give me what I was asking for. I realized I was being overworked and underpaid, which happens, right? We understand that. And I think that the last time I went to that boss at the time and asked for a raise, she said, sometimes you got to leave and come back to get what you want. And I was like, that's it for me, because I saw that the person, a white male who was working in the same position that I was working in for the same amount of time, was making like triple what I was making. And I was like, that was a slap in the face. And I was like, you got to do something about it. Been working for the bank for almost 10 years. I'm like, you know, I want to travel. I want to like experience life before I get married and settle down, or level up, as I like to say, in a relationship. And I want to know what it's like to see the world, you know, like just have a whole different perspective on life. And so I just quit. And when I quit, I was like, I did a Eat, Pray, Love trip. I went to Egypt, was the first place that I went, which blew my mind. Like,
you read The Alchemist, right?
Yes, I read The Alchemist. Yeah, you remember. yeah, I read The Alchemist, and things just started to change. Like I met an alchemist in Egypt. So it was like these different synchronicities that were happening while I was there.
Frequency.
Yeah.
When you're on the right frequency, things will just flow. You read The Alchemist on the flight there, and then you ended up meeting one there.
Yeah. And I remember going into some of these pyramids and seeing like the people on the walls that looked like me, and seeing what they built, and realizing like they were the creators of the civilization, which still exists today, and so. And also seeing different yoga postures on the walls. That
in
blew
the
me away.
pyramids.
And yes, I was like,
so what does that tell you?
That
about
told
the
me
roots of yoga.
There we go. We go. So I was like, once I started to get into yoga, I was like, well, hold on. We never talk about the roots of yoga, like where yoga actually really truly come from. We always hear about it, being based in India, and never really healing.
We see the Western kind of white yoga.
Yeah.
Image.
Yeah, and we don't talk about how it actually was created.
The roots in Africa.
And at the time is Kemet. And what they described as yoga, yoga for them, it's called Kemetic yoga or Smai Tawi. And Smai Tawi means the union of the upper and lower regions of Egypt. It is a depiction of the lungs and the heart. And so it's like the connection within the body, the mind, body, soul connection. And so that just opened up a whole different world for me, where I was like, oh, this is in me. Like, this is rooted in me. So I felt like I was being drawn to yoga. Something was pulling me in to share this gift, not only for me, because me and my family, because we all need it, right? We the trauma and all the things that I had experienced, and I saw that my parents had experienced. And I was like, if I can get through this, through yoga, whatever it was that I was going through at that time, I wanted to be able to share that gift with everyone else. So rewind it a little bit. So did my Eat, Pray, Love trip, started in Egypt, went to Barcelona, Spain, went to Rome, went to Morocco, and it was just life-changing, like changed my life. And I was like, what? When I get back, I want to do, first I want to just travel, because traveling it helps you just really connect with people from all over the world and appreciate cultures, and what they show us on TV is nothing like experience the true culture and experiencing one another. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you come from. Like, we all had that commonality of the human experience. And I felt so connected, more like family, to everybody that I met. And at the time I traveled by myself too. So it was like, it was just eye-opening, and I was like, there's so much more to the world than sitting at this desk, a 9 to 5. I'm so happy I quit. And I was like, you know what, let me just see if I could do this for a living. Let me just travel. Let me, so I submitted an application to Delta Airlines and to American Airlines, and I ended up getting both of them, but chose to go with one company. I won't say which one. And then I ended up traveling with them for 3 years. I got based in Miami. We talk about, being broke. So it was very humbling.
Yes. You were a flight attendant.
Yeah. I went from a certain salary to, being
a flight attendant.
Where it looks glamorous. Yeah. But it is it's like being in the trenches, where you're like, you have your suitcase, and you're staying at these great hotels, but you're exhausted. You're not making a lot of money. You're not eating right. So I was flying more than I was actually on the ground. So I wasn't grounded. Like, my cycle was all messed up. You
were in the sky.
Yeah. And being around this radiation, when you're flying a lot, that's being encapsulated in this metal tube. It's not healthy. So I needed to find a balance, something to decompress and like release. And so,
that's funny. We both kind of got into our yoga as a saving grace place.
It helped. It saved my life.
As a safe space from our jobs, our work environment. You were working out as a flight attendant, and it was like my one place to just heal and focus on me.
Yeah. And so when I left LA, I didn't make enough money, so I couldn't pay for the car note that I had anymore. And one of my old girlfriends, that
was what I was about to ask. How did that car?
she I was like, let me park it at your house. She lived in Sylmar at the time, and parked it at her house, and she would just check on it. And then one day, I guess she forgot about it, or whatever the case may be, but the repo people came and they picked it up, all my stuff that I had in there. And I was like, oh, I guess it's time to let it go. And I didn't feel any way about it, because I was living in Miami at the time. And then I got transferred to Phoenix, trying to get back to LA. And So I was like, all right, well, that's gone. But the beauty in that, even though the car got repossessed, it ended up getting sold, and I like wiped out any debt that I had.
Wow.
So it was like everything that was supposed to happen happened for a reason. And I didn't have that burden on me of trying to figure out how I'm going to pay this and do that. It was so freeing. Like being able to do what I want to do, go where I want to go, and not have these bills. And, you know, being that I wasn't making a lot of money, I was able to focus on me. And so being stressed, flying all over the place, my girlfriend invites me to yoga. I go into this hot yoga studio, and I'm hooked.
Was it Radiate?
It was Radiate. That was the first hot yoga studio I'd ever been to. First place I practiced.
Yeah.
And I was dating a guy at the time who he lied about his situation, and he was actually in a relationship. When I found out about it, I was just like, you know what? I'm making a lot of wrong decisions here with the guys that I'm dating.
Oh my God, we were both kind of dating.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like the car getting repossessed. I'm taking a bus to yoga, but that was the only thing that was saving me.
Literally, like the same. Like we were both dating guys who we found out weren't really single. Yes, we both had our cars
repossessed, taken. It was like life shook us.
Yeah.
And was like, you're going to get rid of this. I know it's going to be a little, you know, but what we did, we made a commitment. We were both taking the bus. We used to see each other walking from the bus stop.
Girls waiting for yoga Uber, teacher training. Standing outside, waiting for a ride. Hitching a ride.
Yeah. And so same thing. Like I was going to yoga, and when I heard about the teacher training scholarship, I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to teach, because I just felt like teaching yoga has there's a big responsibility. Like you're dealing with people's lives. Like people are going through real life stuff. And I was like, I don't have my shit together. Like how am I going to sit here and hold space for somebody else and I'm a mess, you know what I mean? So there was some intimidation, but I was like, I want to go deeper into this because I know there's something I'm healing, and I just want to go deeper to heal whatever I need to heal so I can get over the other side of this. And so I wrote an essay for the scholarship.
You know, they only made that scholarship announcement like a few times. So just it was divine timing because not many people even knew about that scholarship, let alone, did you find out anybody else who got it? I think it was us, maybe, but we don't.
I don't know anyone else who got a scholarship outside of us, but it was divine. I mean, I remember us being, this is the beautiful part, right? Like I remember us being in class together. We connected and shared what we wanted to do. You know,
we did. The first day of yoga school, they asked, what do you want to do? Or like even throughout the semester, it was like, what do you want to do? And I do want to touch on, we weren't in yoga school. It wasn't like we were like besties or anything like that. I think we hardly even spoke to each other, really.
It was hi and bye.
It was just like a hi and bye, or just going to class, leave. I mean, we were in school, right? And we still had our situations outside of, you know, we were struggling. But, you know, our relationship has grown like over the years through time, but there was always like a connection or something, like always bring our friendship back, or like just us growing into like a deeper friendship through sisterhood like situation.
And I think we needed to really clear up our own stuff and heal within ourselves before we could actually come in, because I think that's a big thing too, when you have such traumatic backgrounds, and you like, I feel like we were able to come closer together once we healed a lot of things.
We had to work through stuff.
We had to work through stuff.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, before we could actually, you know, build trust and, you know, friendships. We talk about that too, like building new relationships and friendships, and having the ability to like really, you know, take our guards down and get close to each other. But I always saw you, and like I said, we talked about wanting to do retreats all over the world together, and yoga retreats, yoga
events. I made it very clear. I was like, I want to do hip hop, R&B yoga events. I believe that's literally what I said. And it was funny because from some of the people in our yoga school, I got some feedback about, just not on that day in particular, but just like on music selection and like, oh, well, maybe you should play more of this type of a playlist that would be more like appealing to kind of the community it was at the time, which was we were in Arizona.
Right,
we were practically Arcadia, Scottsdale.
Right.
So very primarily like white area.
Right.
And then the Western white tone on the yoga community, you know, there wasn't, especially in Arizona, really a space for like Black women to go and feel accepted and feel safe to go do yoga and my hair is looking, I got my cornrows in today.
Oh, let's talk about the hair.
Yeah. Or I have, I need to wear my scarf today.
Yeah.
Like, or my hair's in my Afro puff. Yesterday you saw it in a weave.
Yeah.
Today it's in an Afro puff. Like,
yeah.
these things literally affect us wanting to go work out, us wanting to go to these spaces that are primarily white women, white men, who definitely turn around and look when you're putting your mat out and you have an afro today,
and you had hair down to your butt yesterday, or you had braids,
or needing to make a comment, or it's uncomfortable. It can be really uncomfortable, and that's why we wanted to start this podcast, was just to create a safe space for people who look like us, or even people who don't look like us, for them to kind of understand our point of view, because these are things people don't really talk about. But
it's the unspoken, like, things in yoga, or the yoga studios, or even in just these wellness spaces where people like us, and not just us, brown, Latino, Latina, just Asian, like people of other races and backgrounds, for all of us to feel like we're seen, like we're safe, like there's a safe space where we can go and heal and not feel judged, or and not feel welcome. We want to feel welcome when we come in these spaces, and I think that, like you said, like, us doing this podcast is an opportunity for us to share some of our experiences, so we as a collective community can start to change and be more welcoming to others within these wellness spaces. Because, like I always say, like, wellness should not be wellness is more than a luxury. It should be a necessity, and everyone should have access to wellness, just these wellness tools, and should feel welcome into these spaces. And I think that, like I said, I think that this podcast will really, really be helpful in having some of these conversations and opening up,
breaking down the walls, uncovering some uncomfortable topics, and it'll get uncomfortable. We might get uncomfortable even speaking about it. But, and I will say, being uncomfortable, I mean, as confident as you and I are, there were times going to yoga was very uncomfortable at times. Where we met, Radiate Hot Yoga, loved it there. I mean, literally changed my life forever. My life.
I'm super, super grateful for that.
Yes. But I will say there's just in general in Western society, yoga, it can be very uncomfortable, and I see why. Like, I would invite my friends to come to yoga and they'd be like, oh no girl, I just got my hair done, or like, it's our hair is such a huge part of us, and absolutely. And we'll get into that in our episodes, but also just feeling safe and accepted to
be yourself.
And also just the way our bodies are built too.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us brown women, like,
we're very curvy.
Our Mexican sisters, our black sisters, we're curvy. And the message at the time when I had first started yoga school, I was working at Lululemon. So I got hired at Lululemon at the same time. And it was just going from there to the Scottsdale studio. It was just like, okay, I'm just in this space where it's like, I'm always the only black girl in the room. It can be very annoying at times, I'm not gonna lie, or just feeling like there's no one else in there who can relate to you. And then also we were going to yoga in a very affluent area, so I was spending my last on my Lululemon.
That's another thing.
My outfits, my yoga mats. I was using the same, girl, the guy I was dating bought me a Lululemon yoga mat. Girl, I ran that yoga mat to the ground, like, to the point where I had to throw it away. But
yoga has become like this capitalist, community, when it wasn't made for that,
right?
And I feel like the Western world is capitalizing off of it in such a way that we need to take a step back and I think really look at why we're creating these type of communities, and what is the reason, why are we making $200 pair of pants, or a $300 membership, when it should be, for us, again, a safe space for people to come. It should not be just a luxury. It should be a necessity, and everyone has access to this, because the society that we're in now, we need it. Like, everyone, not just everyone, white, black, yellow, whoever you are, we all need it. No matter how big or small you are, everyone, again, should feel welcome. And like you said, we're going to get a little uncomfortable, but uncomfortability, it allows us to grow. And I think that that's the most important thing, is for us all to grow. But
yeah. And we've both grown so much. Yeah. And so just a little bit more background for context for our episodes. Since yoga school, yes, I, founded my company, Yogi Therapy. Yes. And so, yes, it's a yoga event, wellness retreats, yes, wellness education coming soon, yes, podcast, all of that good stuff. Yes. And, I didn't have much money, but I took my last few $100s, and at the end of COVID lockdowns, I put on my first event, R&B Yoga.
And it's always sold out, y'all. Y'all have to definitely check out R&B Yoga. Brianna's classes, it's a vibe. You hear me? It's a vibe.
And it's interesting because I really thought it was just going to be like one type of, like, I thought it was going to be like white girls showing up. Yeah. And really it turned into this thing where
multicultural
mm-hmm. and multicultural, all ages. I've had kids come. Yeah. I've had
men come.
Yeah. I've had people of all different sizes, all different ages. Yeah. Girl, I had like a 60-year-old white man in my R&B yoga class. Like, it's dope. Definitely open to everyone. And so, and it's kind of just this last year of me really focusing on the business has really grown into something where I'm like, okay, I think this is going to be a lifelong thing for me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so under Yogi Therapy, just so many different things that I'm doing, retreats, events, got my first contract at an elementary school, so doing kids yoga. Yes. And then, I teach hot yoga.
And we just went on our first Yogi Therapy retreat to Bali. Yes. It was the first one. So talk about where we started and where we are now.
Yeah. I don't even, I'm like,
how did you forget that?
Right, yeah. We just did our first yoga retreat. That was amazing.
That's another episode.
That's a whole episode, y'all. Life-changing, though. Yeah. Completely changed my life. And, both Ashley and I share our passion in traveling. I think traveling has also just been this really big factor in our lives, and we're going to talk about that a lot in our podcast, because I think getting uncomfortable, going to other countries, different continents, being in different cultures, forced in different situations. Not speaking the language, not understanding how the money works. Yeah. The environment is completely different. I got a frog that jumped on me. Monkeys are on top of my head. Like, it just forces you again, just like the yoga room, just like in the hot yoga. Surrender. We talk about surrendering to your mat, surrendering to just the circumstances you have no control over. And, traveling has been a major part of my healing spiritual journey.
Same. Every chance I get, I'm always gone.
We're gonna get into that.
And I mean, to bring it full circle, some of my goals have also, I've been able to actualize them into reality too. Wanting to always be in real estate. Real estate has been like, something I've always wanted to get into. And so now with the real estate company that I've always wanted to be with, it's like my dream company. In addition to that, just kind of looking at real estate and yoga as one and the same. Like, this is our physical body, our first home, right? And then, you got to take care of that. And that gives you an opportunity to then, grow your finances and be able to take care of your home as well. It's an extension of you.
The home we need to have a whole episode on the home as an extension of you.
Absolutely.
Because your home is literally a reflection of what's going on up here internally. Yeah. And also just the feng shui, or how you set up your home. For example, I've heard, like, for example, if you keep a really dirty room, right, and you keep that door closed, but your living room and where people can come have dinner with you is all clean and perfect, but your bedroom is a mess. Yeah. Like, just these little things will really speak to what's going on in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we definitely need to just have a whole episode on just real estate, how that connects to the spiritual yoga practice. Yeah. And what else are you trying to do?
Outside of that, I have had an opportunity to really just deepen my wellness journey, because that's just my passion. I'm forever healing, right? Forever a student of the universe. So I've had an opportunity to study under some really great teachers who have been in their fields for a really long time. Someone by the name of Queen Afua. Shouts out to Queen Afua and the Sacred Women tribe.
Love her book.
Had an opportunity to really dive deep into my spiritual journey and be surrounded by some really, really incredible women who are on their spiritual journeys as well, and to share that healing with the world. In addition to that, I've had an opportunity to study with Dr. Latham.
Yes.
Aris Latham. He is
Sunfired, right?
Yes, Sunfired,
Yes.
a raw foodist. He has been a raw foodist for so long, teaching us how we can, they both teach us how we can heal our bodies by utilizing food as medicine. And
nutrition is another huge
nutrition
one.
is, I'm big on nutrition.
Big.
And so in addition to, to that, also teaching sound healing. Sound is my baby. Like, I love music. Music is, it is the rhythm. My heartbeat is the rhythm, through life. So really starting to share sound. I have some events coming up that I'm really, really happy about. We also have an event coming up soon with the Walk House, Women of Color. There's a lot of great things. We both have cars now. Whoop, whoop. We came up, y'all.
Yes.
So, there's so many great things that we're going to share. Like I said, this is a safe space. And I'm just super excited to continue, the journey and to share it with you all. So,
yes.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, episode 1, just an intro and really great. So, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.